Picture this. You've planned the perfect event. Maybe it's a wedding, a business launch, or even just a dinner party you've been hyping up for weeks. You've spent the money, put in the hours, told everyone it's going to be amazing, and then it falls apart. Completely, publicly, expensively. That crushing feeling, the world's biggest YouTuber knows it too. I'm talking about MrBeast, the guy who gives away millions and makes the impossible look easy. But here's what nobody talks about. Even he has projects that spectacularly fail. And this particular failure? It cost him a fortune and taught him everything. Today, we're going behind the scenes of a disaster you never saw. And trust me, whether you're building a career, raising a family, or just trying to get through your daily to-do list, this story is going to hit different. But first, quick question for you. Have you ever poured your heart into something only to watch it completely fall apart? Maybe a business idea, a relationship, a passion project? Drop a comment and tell me about it, because you're not alone. Seriously, I want to hear your story. And if you're new here, hit subscribe, because we're all about the real, unfiltered stories behind the content you see online. The messy human stuff. Let's dive in. So, MrBeast, Jimmy Donaldson, over 200 million subscribers. The man has given away cars, houses, entire islands. He recreated Squid Game with a $3.5 million budget. Everything he posts seems to turn into viral gold. But here's the thing we need to talk about. That's the highlight reel. That's the Instagram version of his life. What you don't see, the countless ideas that crashed and burned, the concepts that devoured budgets and led absolutely nowhere, the brilliant plans that looked perfect until they weren't. And honestly, that's the most relatable part of his entire story. Think about your own life for a second. How many people only see your wins, your promotion, your vacation photos, and your good days? They don't see the rejected job applications, the fights with your partner, the projects you quietly abandoned at 2 a.m. because they just weren't working. That's exactly what happens at the highest levels too. The difference? When you're MrBeast and something fails, you're not just out $50 in an afternoon. You're potentially burning through hundreds of thousands of dollars, disappointing a team of dozens, and risking the reputation you've built over years. What happened? What was this failure that almost nobody knows about? And why am I telling you this story? Because whether you're a content creator, a stay-at-home parent managing a household, an entrepreneur building something from scratch, or someone in corporate America trying to climb the ladder, understanding how successful people handle failure is literally the difference between giving up and breaking through. Stay with me, because this gets good. Let me set the scene. This was during MrBeast's transition period, when he was evolving from viral challenge videos to full-blown productions that rivaled TV shows. He had momentum, he had resources, and he had an idea that was supposed to be his most ambitious project yet. We're talking about a multi-day challenge, dozens of contestants, elaborate custom-built sets, a prize pool that would dominate headlines, the kind of video that would cement his position as not just a YouTuber, but a legitimate media mogul. The pitch was solid. His team was on board. The budget got approved. Every box was checked. On paper, this was destined to be another MrBeast masterpiece. Except, and here's where it gets real, at this level, you're not just filming a YouTube video. You're essentially producing a small, independent film. You need location permits, liability insurance, safety coordinators, legal clearances. You're managing logistics that would make most project managers break out in hives. And you know what? Sometimes life has other plans. Has this ever happened to you? Everything seems perfect. All your ducks are in a row. and then one tiny thing goes wrong and suddenly it's dominoes falling everywhere? Comment below, because I know I'm not the only one who's lived through this nightmare. Here's where the wheels came off. First problem, the location. The venue they'd secured became unavailable at the absolute last minute due to local regulations nobody had fully anticipated. Not a slight delay, completely unavailable. Which meant scrambling to find an alternative, which meant rebuilding the entire production schedule from scratch. If you've ever planned a wedding or a major event, you know this feeling. That moment when the venue falls through and suddenly you're in crisis mode, calling everyone, reworking everything, watching your timeline and budget explode. Then the money problems started. What was supposed to cost, let's say, $300,000 suddenly ballooned to over $500,000 because of the location change, emergency permits, unexpected equipment rentals, overtime costs. We're talking about the kind of budget overrun that would tank most small businesses. But here's the thing about ambitious people, and maybe you relate to this. Once you've committed, once you've told people something's coming, backing out feels like failure. So you push forward. You convince yourself it'll work out. You ignore the warning signs. Sometimes that persistence pays off. But sometimes it just makes the crash harder. So production started, and almost immediately, things felt off. The contestants weren't vibing the way they'd expected. Challenges that seemed exciting in the planning room felt flat on camera. The energy was wrong. You know that feeling when you throw a party and despite all your preparation, people just aren't having fun? It was that, but with hundreds of thousands of dollars on the line. And here's the part that nobody talks about in those 10 steps to success videos. Sometimes the magic just doesn't happen. You can do everything right. Plan meticulously. Hire the best people. Follow all the best practices. And still, the chemistry is off. The spark isn't there. This is especially true for those of us in creative fields. But honestly, it applies to everything. You can prep for that presentation perfectly and still bomb it. You can plan the perfect family vacation and have everyone miserable. You can launch a business with a flawless strategy and watch it fail anyway. Now here's what makes MrBeast different. He's obsessed with quality. He's the kind of person who will delete footage that cost $50,000 to produce if it doesn't meet his standards. He scrapped entire finished videos, weeks of editing work, because they weren't good enough. So put yourself in his shoes for a moment. You've already spent a fortune. Your team has been working 16-hour days for weeks. Everyone's exhausted. Tensions are high. But in your gut, you know this isn't working. You know if you release this, it won't live up to expectations. What do? Do you release it anyway and hope people don't notice? Do you make excuses? Do you let the sunk cost dictate your decision? Real talk. Have you ever been in this position, where you had to decide between admitting defeat or pushing forward with something you knew wasn't right? Drop a comment, because I think we've all been there in different ways. Maybe it was staying in the wrong job too long, or a relationship that wasn't working, or a project you should have walked away from months earlier. MrBeast made a call that most people wouldn't have the guts to make. He shut it down. Not, let's take a break and regroup. Not, maybe we can salvage this in editing. Completely shut down. All that money gone. All those hours wasted. All that planning for nothing. Can you imagine? In a world where we're constantly told to never give up and push through, he looked at a project he'd invested everything into and said, "No, this isn't good enough." Most people would see this as catastrophic failure. And honestly, on paper, it absolutely was. But here's the twist that changes everything. This might have been one of the smartest business decisions he ever made. Why? Because reputation is everything. In content creation, in your career, in your personal brand, trust is your currency. One subpar video, one mediocre product launch, one broken promise can damage relationships you've spent years building. For MrBeast, whose entire brand is built on delivering mind-blowing, high-quality experiences, releasing something mediocre could have been far more expensive than eating a six-figure production cost. Think about this in your own life. How many times have you settled for good enough when you knew it wasn't? How many times have you shipped something you weren't proud of because you'd already invested too much to walk away? I'm not saying everything has to be perfect. Perfectionism is its own trap. But there's a difference between perfect and good enough for what I promised. But here's where the story gets really interesting. Because it wasn't just about protecting his brand. It was about what happened next. When you fail, especially when you fail big and publicly, you have two choices. Let it define you, or let it refine you. Let it break you, or let it teach you. MrBeast chose growth, and the lessons that came from this disaster literally transformed how he operates. Lesson 1: Systems over inspiration. After this failure, MrBeast and his team completely overhauled their pre-production process. They added multiple layers of verification, more backup plans, more rigorous testing of concepts before committing serious resources. They built systems to prevent this from happening again. And here's what's interesting. This applies to all of us. Whether you're managing a household, running a team, or building a business, relying on motivation and winging it only gets you so far. Eventually, you need systems and processes. Think about meal planning versus scrambling every night at 6 p.m. Think about financial systems versus hoping you don't overdraft. Think about communication protocols in relationships versus assuming your partner can read your mind. Systems prevent disasters. Lesson 2: Sunk cost is real, and it will destroy you if you let it. This is huge, especially for women, who research shows are often socialized to avoid wasting things: time, money, relationships, opportunities. We stay in situations longer than we should because we've already invested so much. But smart operators in business, in life, know that sometimes the best investment is stopping the bleeding and moving on. The money's already gone, the time is already spent. The only question is, will you throw more after it? I've seen this with friends who stay in toxic jobs because they've already given the company 5 years. With people who won't leave bad relationships because they've already invested so much. With entrepreneurs who keep funding failing businesses because they can't admit it's not working. Lesson 3: Failure is data, not destiny. Every mistake reveals information. Every problem shows you a weakness in your system, your planning, or your approach. The question isn't whether you'll fail, you absolutely will. The question is whether you'll extract the lessons and apply them. And here's what's fascinating. In the videos that came after this failed project, you can see the evolution. The production quality jumped. The planning became airtight. The concepts became more refined. The failure literally made him better. What failures have made you better? Think about your biggest disaster. What did you learn? And more importantly, did you actually apply those lessons? Or did you just beat yourself up and move on? Comment below, because this is important stuff. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Okay, interesting story, but I'm not MrBeast. I'm not working with million-dollar budgets. I'm just trying to get through my day, manage my family, build my career, pay my bills. Why should I care about some YouTuber's failed video? Here's why this matters. The principles are completely universal. Whether you're a small creator trying to grow your platform, a mom managing a household budget, an entrepreneur launching a side hustle, someone navigating corporate politics, or just a person with dreams and goals, you're going to face moments where things don't go as planned. You're going to invest time, money, emotional energy, and hope into things that fail. You're going to have ideas that seem brilliant at midnight, but look ridiculous in daylight. You're going to start projects you can't finish. You're going to make promises you can't keep. And the way you handle those failures, the grace you show yourself, the lessons you extract, the resilience you build, that determines whether you eventually succeed or burn out trying. MrBeast could have released that video. He could have made excuses, blamed the location, the contestants, the weather, bad luck. He could have let his ego drive the decision. But he didn't. He prioritized long-term reputation over short-term validation. That's the mindset that separates people who flame out from people who build sustainable success. So here's my challenge to you, and I want you to really think about this. What project or idea are you working on right now that isn't working? Be brutally honest with yourself. Not honest light, where you acknowledge problems but make excuses. Actually honest. Is it your career path? Are you in the right job? Or are you staying because you've already invested years? Is it a relationship? Are you with someone because you love them? Or because leaving feels like admitting failure? Are you continuing because it's the right move? Or because you've already sunk too much money, time, or ego into it to walk away? Is it even something like your approach to health, your daily routines, your friendships? Sometimes the things that aren't working are the patterns we've repeated for so long, we don't even question them anymore. Here's the hard truth. Sometimes the most productive, brave, intelligent thing you can do is stop, pause, reassess, and either fix it properly or let it go with grace. That doesn't make you a quitter. It makes you someone who's honest about reality and smart enough to redirect your energy toward things that actually have a chance of succeeding. Look, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. Failure sucks. It's embarrassing. It's expensive. It hurts. There's no motivational speech that makes it feel good at the moment. But failure is also how you grow. It's how you learn what works and what doesn't. It's how you build the experience and judgment to make better decisions next time. It's how you develop resilience, real resilience, not Instagram quote resilience. MrBeast's biggest failure wasn't the video that never came out. His biggest failure would have been releasing something he knew wasn't good enough, just to avoid admitting he was wrong, just to save face, just to justify the investment. The courage wasn't in starting the project. The courage was in ending it. So if you take one thing away from this video, let it be this: fail forward. Learn from every mistake, extract every lesson, and never ever let the fear of failure stop you from taking ambitious swings. Because here's the secret. The people you admire, the ones who seem to have it all figured out, they've failed more than you've even tried. The difference is they kept going. They learned. They adapted. They didn't let failure define them. You can do the same. If this video gave you a new perspective or made you think differently about your own situation, hit that like button. It genuinely helps more people find this content. Drop a comment below with your biggest failure and what you learned from it. No judgment here, just real people sharing real experiences. And if you're not already subscribed, click that button because we're diving into more stories like this. The messy, real, human stories behind success. The stuff nobody posts on their highlight reel. Thanks for being here. Thanks for engaging. And remember, your failures don't define you. What you do with them does. I'll see you in the next one.